The Madlanga Commission has confirmed that the testimony of Police Minister Senzo Mchunu is scheduled to begin at 2 p.m. tomorrow. Mchunu, who is on a leave of absence, has been placed at the center of the allegations before the Madlanga Commission. This includes his alleged links with attempted murderer accused Vusimuzi Matlala and his close association with Northwest businessman and political fixer Brown Mogotsi. Mchunu is expected to respond to allegations leveled against him in phase 1 of the commission by various witnesses. To speak more about what transpired at the commission and what to expect, we are joined by legal analyst Mpumelelo Zikalala. Mpumelelo, good evening. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate you coming on. Perhaps to start the conversation here, Mchunu has already appeared before Parliament's ad hoc committee and is now to appear before the Madlanga Commission. However, the terms of references of Parliament's ad hoc committee and the Madlanga Commission are not quite the same. However, there are some overlaps and importantly here, the threshold for what passes as admissible evidence or testable evidence is different for these committees, or at least for the committee and the commission on the one hand. Given that he might repeat some of the answers we would have heard before the before Parliament's ad hoc committee, what do you think we should be expecting in terms of the litmus test on the strength of the evidence that he is to depose tomorrow before the ad hoc committee, before the Madlanga Commission rather?
Good evening to your viewers. What's going to be more important is consistency. Remember that regardless of the level of testing in terms of the evidence, what is more consistent and what should be consistent is that the information should not change. You are under oath, you are under oath under the ad hoc committee, you are still going to be under oath under the Madlanga Commission. And then the next part of the inquiry then says, do you understand what your role as the Police Minister is as per the South African Constitution and the other applicable act? Did you act in accordance with that? I think that's going to be the most important one. And then let's also remember that at the ad hoc committee, you had members of parliament that were posing questions to the minister. Here it's quite different. We have people that are trained legal minds who are going to come in and say, well, we are well trained in doing what we're doing. So when it comes to cross-examination, we're going to go to the crisp questions and make sure that we're able to extract the information that we're looking for.
Yeah, and of course, the bone of contention, or at least the most contentious issue here, is the dissolution of the Political Killings Task Team by Senzo Mchunu on that infamous letter written on the 31st of December 2024. And to that, and at least the evidentiary test will be around whether or not certain people knew about it and certain people influenced it externally. One such person being Vusimuzi Matlala through Brown Mogotsi, who has already appeared, by the way, before the Madlanga Commission himself, Brown Mogotsi that is. Where do you see the gaps to be in that evidentiary test?
I think it's going to be the understanding of the powers that are given to the minister. Firstly, let's start with what the Constitution is saying. If you then look at Section 206, which is the political responsibility, do you understand what your responsibility was? Do you understand that you're not supposed to share confidential information? That's what you stated when you took oath. Did you break that particular oath, or you're engaging in consultative processes? Then the second part of it is, after having taken a decision, if we give you the benefit of the doubt and say you do have that powers to do so, did you go out and consult? Because at the end of the day, the decision that you are taking is going to impact on a number of individuals. There must be consultation which is going to take place. Remember that the police commissioner in KZN, Mr. General Mkonas, said, I wasn't consulted, I was simply given instruction to say, this is where we are, this is the direction that we are taking, and I must simply comply. And then the other question that I think they were going to stick on is to say, what are the provisions or the elements or the evidence that you looked at that persuaded you that this particular task team must be disbanded? Was it the finances? Was it the one of saying you want to distribute the work as it is? Did you even understand the demand that was there? Were you aware of the cases that were there? Were you briefed? Were you aware of the impact that it's going to have if there's an upright movement of those cases? Let's look into that. And I think mostly then the commission will go and further and check, is there anything that needs to be changed within the constitution? My personal view is the constitution is too broad. It gives way too much power to the minister, and when the minister is not a career politician and the person that can change as we move along. So it may be one of those recommendations to say, maybe at the time of drafting the constitution, we didn't think that we are going to be faced with something such as these ones, but let's look into it now, especially with the allegations of outside influence that has taken place.
Yeah. Let's talk about the test on the application of the power. The allegations that was made by General Mkwanazi was that Senzo Mchunu seems to be linked to a criminal underworld of which Vusimuzi Matlala seems to be a kingpin of, and that his actions were to advance the protection of Vusimuzi Matlala and, of course, his supposed looting of the state. Now, the undertone there, or at least the logical conclusion there, is that Senzo Mchunu's behavior and actions would have been criminal in its nature. But if we're going to be talking about the testing of power, particularly around the dissolution of the PKTT, the misunderstanding and the misapplication of your powers as a minister is not necessarily criminal. We see ministers misunderstand and misapply their powers all the time. And this is why PAJA, the promotion of administrative justice, exists as an act to be able to reverse those decisions. It's going to be a long way to go from proving that the misunderstanding and misapplication of his powers were inherently criminal. Although that's not seemingly the terms of reference of the Madlanga Commission. They're not a criminal investigative body, right? But that test is going to be an important one nonetheless. Do you think that the minister might be open to making some strategic concessions, saying, look, I may have misunderstood my powers and misapplied it, but I certainly wasn't intending on committing a crime?
I think taking into account of his experience at the head of committee, he will have no choice than to concede that. Because at the end of the day, it is indeed true that he did not follow what the provisions actually state. If you look at Section 206 of the Constitution, it is explicitly clear that your powers are only when it comes to national policing policy, and those important words, after consulting with the provincial governments and taking into account the policing needs and priorities. So the test would be, what are those priorities and needs that you looked at? Was it the needs of the data on ethics in the nature of saying, this is the resources that we have, this is the budget that you are given, these are the cases that you are there, these are the cases that you are still in court. When I looked into those, I then came to the decision, or is the committee going to arrive at the conclusion of saying, well, the needs that you looked at are not the needs that are authentic to this matter. Actually, it was outside influence, and that outside influence was motivated or fueled by your personal ambitions and nothing to do with what the police have been stating. So that would be the crux or the nub of the presentation that will be made by the minister tomorrow. So he has to be prepared to be able to defend his decision in terms of saying, I did an honest mistake, and that honest mistake was not fueled by any other influence from any other individual.
Yeah.
It was simply me looking at the matter and making a miscalculated judgment.
But if Parliament's ad hoc committee is anything to go by, we can safely assume that Senzo Mchunu will want to defend his letter of the 31st of December as one that is a policy directive in its nature and not operational interference. What are the parameters on what would qualify as a policy directive, and at what point does that cross the line into, does an action cross the line into being an operational interference?
The one important aspect to look at is, does it impact on the day-to-day, or is it a policy decision that you are going to take to say, let's change our uniforms from blue to red? Let's change the way in which we adopt the Batupele principles. But once you start to dwell with how the police actually do their work when you're not a career politician, a career policeman, then it starts to dwell or cross over the Rubicon into what the general would do and not what you're supposed to do at the moment. But another important part to that, and if you don't know what those policies are or what the policing policy is, your consultation with the provincial government and other interested stakeholders will then alert you when you are then overstepping the mark, which the consultation in this case did not take place. It was simply an up-down instruction to say, you must go implement these particular provisions. So once you've determined that someone is wrong in that particular aspect, of misunderstood it, we then come to the second part of the inquiry. Why did you do it? Is it a pure mistake, an honest mistake, or was it fueled by something else? Remember that at the ad hoc committee, without taking anything away from them, you are not being cross-examined by individuals that do not do this on a regular basis. But now, at the Madlanga Commission, all those people that are there, legal practitioners, they engage in cross-examination every single day. If they were able to make all the other participants concede to that they are lying and that they are misleading the commission, maybe they'll be able to do that yesterday if there are elements of lies.
Well, certainly one to watch out for. Mpumelelo, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. That's legal analyst Mpumelelo Zikalala.